Go for it.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna
Vander Ark,
do a.
good to see you, man. You're
Good to see
crushing a
you.
bowl of porridge. I see live on air. That's pretty exciting.
I always wondered. What do you put? You eat oatmeal at all?
Oh yeah, I've kind of quit oatmeal. It's kind of too boring or something unless you dump a bunch of cinnamon in there.
Well, the thing is like I was making. I don't often need it either, but I need to be filled up and to keep me going because I get up so goddamn early. And I put butter and salt in it, and people think that's weird.
That
Is
makes a
that
lot of
weird?
sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Doesn't it?
I
Because it's
think that's
wheat.
supposed to be one of the better breakfasts you can eat because it's not jacked full of sugar and it's just like a solid base. Is that something?
Right. Right. And then you don't. Then I won't eat again for another 4 or 5 hours.
So you're a morning guy. That's great. Has
Yeah.
that been
You
a
too.
problem for you as like a touring musician? Does that make it harder to stay up late at night in venues and bars?
No, I've never had that problem. I've never. When I'm home, I get up at 4 because I need the house to be quiet to write and to work and do whatever I got to do before the kids get up. But when I'm on the road, it's always been easy for me to make the shift. Like I don't really get jet lagged, traveling to the West Coast or whatever. I don't really have any issue. I kind of look forward to going to the West Coast because I'll have an extra 3 hours of the day. You know what I mean? Like
Right,
I'd
time
rather
travel.
not. If we didn't have to sleep, I would rather not sleep. Why sleep? You know what I mean? I'd rather do the cat nap thing. What did Thomas Edison used to do? You know that? He used to did he hold his keys in his hand? Did they have keys back then? Yeah, they had keys back then.
I think they had those giant medieval keys, like the real
Yeah.
oversized ones.
Yeah. Well, he would hold them in his hand and then he would fall asleep. And when he dropped his keys, it would wake him up. And that's the
Wow.
only way that he slept, apparently. I think I have that right. It was Thomas Edison that did that.
What a wacko. So he never, yeah.
Yeah, he never would like go down for like 6 to 8 hours. He would just like take these cat naps.
Huh.
Isn't that funny?
I mean, that's like a big entrepreneurial thing you see them talk about in like business podcasts and stuff, like
Mhm.
how to sleep less. And so
Right.
you're alive more, so you can crush more admin or whatever, which
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds exciting. I would love to be alive more, but I also don't want to
Yeah.
feel like a pile of trash, you know?
But you still have to, you'll make up for it on your deathbed. Your deathbed is coming earlier. For those who don't sleep as much, apparently, if you don't get 7 or 8 hours, you'll die younger.
Is that right? Yeah.
That's what they say, dude. I don't know. That's why I eat oatmeal without any sugar in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to offset my my drug use.
How's your drug use these days?
It's really, I'm on point. I'm pretty much on brand. It's been pretty good.
Optimal?
Optimal.
Yeah, I was reading Dave Grohl's book and don't choke on
Sorry.
the porridge. And I was so envious of the man because he's like, yeah, I do my pre-ritual routine and, I eat 3 Advils and chug 3 beers and then I hit the stage. And like, he's
Oh my
doing that
God.
like 50 nights in a row on tour. I was like, I wish I could do that without being a depressed pile of
That's
mud.
crazy. The only time I've done that, I used to play back before the pandemic. I was doing the Joe Kocur. Joe Kocur is a hockey player, if you don't know, for the Red Wings, one of the Bruise brothers, hardcore. Anyway, so I play with those guys, play softball with those guys for his charity, and I had a back issue one year, and one of the guys said, "Oh, just here's what you do: you take 6 Advil and you chug a beer." And this was right before the game.
Hmm.
And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm out there like a fucking ballerina. I mean, I'm out there doing all this crazy shit, diving, catching balls and shit. And then the next day I was like, oh my God, it was in traction. It was the worst.
Yeah.
Anyway, but does Dave do that kind of ballerina move, those kind of ballerina moves? And he needs to like numb himself so much.
Well, I think he was just talking about how he fell off stage and like broke his leg in
Right.
half and like
That's
finished
right.
the show with a doctor holding his leg in place so it didn't like get worse and just sitting in a chair, which it's a funny story, but
I still
yeah,
think that Dave, man, I love Dave Grohl. Listen, who's gonna? I'm sick and tired of Dave Grohl. God damn it! Can I just say it?
the
He's
guy's invincible.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Enough already. All right, so you have a little girl come up on stage and play drums on Everlong. Okay, it's great. You're every man. You're an amazing guy. You fell off the stage and broke your leg, and you came back out and finished the set. I get it. All right, now stop and leave some news for the rest of us. Jesus
Vander Ark,
Christ.
we need to write you a stunt. I don't know. You need to break your
Yeah.
leg on stage or something.
I mean, I know I'm going to catch so much shit for this. If anybody watched this podcast, I know I would catch shit.
I've never heard anyone talk shit about Dave Grohl, but yeah, we can definitely move on.
Listen,
Let's start a
I
feud.
mean it.
That's what the Verve Pipe needs right now.
Listen, we
Feud
were
with
on
the
our.
foos.
All right, you want to know what the story is? And this isn't just sour grapes. Well, it might be a little sour grapes. But when we were on RCA and our album came out, the Underneath album that came out around the week of 9/11, Doomed. Anyway, right after that, we were like on the verge of being dropped by the label and everything. And they had just signed Foo Fighters. And so, I think Learning to Fly came out a huge hit. And so there was this whole like every time a label rep would pick us up, they'd be playing the Foo Fighters album and they'd be talking about the concert. They'd be on the phone like securing tickets for people and everything to the Foo Fighters concert while we're sitting in the backseat just going, "Oh my God, we're got about a half full, club that we're playing to tonight."
So you could kind of feel the demise coming.
Yeah, I felt like the hair bands felt when Nirvana came out, ironically, You remember that feeling of like, when you had like guys at Skid Row and all those guys, and then, Nirvana broke and then that like busted the whole hair band thing. No, I got nothing against Dave. Very nice guy. And listen, I mean, he's got the chops, right? Great,
Have you
great
hung with
songwriter.
Dave
great drummer.
in the earlier on?
No, in fact, I met him once, and that was at back in the day. But they, every time they'd come through town, I'd get my son tickets and stuff, and they would, he'd get to go backstage and all this. So they were always very nice to me.
So in the 90s, was there like, when you kind of got dropped from a label, could you ever have a comeback and get re-picked up by somebody else? Or was like, once you were dropped and touched by a label, did like no one else want to touch you kind of thing?
No, a lot of labels, you have that opportunity, but RCA, they had signed on to this talent show where they were going to do all the records for this televised talent show. And I'm like, good luck with that. Ended up being American Idol. So they never looked back. There was no, we missed the Verve Pipe,
Sure.
But
so what's cooking for you? Are you, is morale pretty high and, you're staying out of the winter seasonal depression kind of stuff?
yeah, well, we just put this album out and the reaction's been phenomenal. So that's always exciting. You know that when you work on something for so long, and when we worked through the pandemic on this record, it was like, what's it going to be like on the other side of this pandemic?
Mm.
And how is this going to be accepted, or is it going to be accepted or not? Because we added Channing Lee, who was our backup singer, and then she's also a great songwriter. So we co-wrote songs together, and then she's singing on the tracks and stuff, and man, people love it. So it's been great. Yeah, man, we're super stoked.
When was the last time you put out an album?
2017 was the last time. So, or 2016 or 2017. So 3 or 4 years.
Is it a pretty democratic process? Does everyone work on the songs together?
Yeah, kind of. No, not like the old days, but we get more done. The old days, everybody had a voice, and when everybody has a voice, you don't get shit done. It just takes forever.
Right.
You know what I mean? So since the original members broke up and I put together this new team, back in 2010, it's been so much easier. And then when the other original member, Donnie, left in 2014, then that was the real opening. So since then we put out 3 records.
Right, with like the speed of how the world goes and music and how music is released, it's like there's no time to sit and have votes on every decision. You got to make decisions quickly, and you got to make consistently good decisions and keep moving.
Yeah.
And I think it's that probably for anything in life. It's all about just like trying to make more good decisions than bad decisions, and keep
Yeah.
doing them and not looking back and focusing on the past.
I mean, in every single career, yes, that's true. In music, it almost has to go back to the days of the early Beatles, where you put out 3 albums a year, or more. You know what I mean? You're always in people's faces. And so far that's worked wonders for us. Like we put before the album's even released, we're putting the songs out there, Well, how do you do it? Do you do it similar to that, or do you hold up and wait to put your LPs out?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think that's kind of like the gold standard model is like trickle out songs, and then like if you're a touring
Yeah.
band, obviously you have to have some like physical stuff to sell, so you press it on a vinyl and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's generally been the model. But I don't know. We've talked about this a little bit, how we both kind of enjoy the DIY like marketing side of music, probably more than
Mhm.
the average musician, which is lucky. So I'm always like thinking of like funny stuff to put together, or how to package stuff online how to sell it at shows. Maybe you get like a free squirt gun, or
Yeah.
a voucher for a free signed bicep at a future show. I don't know. So it's
I'm
fun.
totally
Like
stealing that.
the
That's
internet
great.
is it can get you down so easy. I think it's just so important to make fun of the internet within the whole process.
Are you on TikTok at all?
No. I think I
Oh
have
my
an
God, it's
account from
made
like
for you.
is it?
That's you, dude. Everything I see, I was just looking at your website this morning to refresh my memory and everything, and the book and the whole thing. Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks, man.
TikTok is for you. If you go through and because besides being able to back it up as a musician, you've got kind of a comedic form to you. I kind of look at you as this kind of quirky, funny, guy. These are that's the reason I think that people enjoy doing interviews with you, because you're funny and you get the joke, and you don't take yourself too seriously. Go on TikTok and get yourself an account, dude. I'm telling you, because you can make these funny little videos, and it's so simple, and you can promote your music there and your book and the whole thing. I'm telling you, just spend a couple of days just going through TikTok, and the algorithm on TikTok is better than any other.
Mm.
Like, as long, it's like swiping up. You go through a video, you see a video, and immediately, if you don't like it, you swipe up. Well, it knows how long you watched, and you'll never see other videos that were that again, that start out that way again. And it's so pinpoints exactly what you want to see, that by the time you do it for a week, you're looking at the stuff you've never even known existed, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
like the idea, man. I don't know if I can like take on another social media platform without killing myself. You know what I
I
mean? I
hear
just think
you. I hear you.
I, I'm starting to like, I used to get so excited about like a new technology or a new platform. And now
Yeah.
I feel maxed out, and I'm just starting to find like the ability of like to be able to have like a great work-life balance and do leisure well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence, and maybe it's too late, maybe not. But
No, but for fan connectivity, there's nothing like it, because I get on there and I see that people are singing The Freshman, right? They'll do it a cappella, or they'll lip sync to it, or they'll play it on the guitar, and they'll ask for you to duet. And so I'll get on there and hit duet, and then it'll be a split screen of me and that person, and they're playing it and I'm singing it.
that's
And it's
awesome, man.
awesome. No, it's great. I mean, I love it. Anyway.
And
But,
if you're on there swiping a bunch, you don't kind of get the that when you finish swiping, or you get kind of that bluesy lull. Is that happen?
not because I have young kids that surprise me at every turn.
Mm.
And scare the shit out of me, frankly, that keep me on my toes all the time. I don't really get that lull. There's always something happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I mean, when I'm bored and I'm just flicking through, and if I'm there for 5 minutes flipping through and not seeing anything I like, then I don't stick with it for the rest of the day.
Do you
I'll
ever
move
like
on.
do you ever like catch your kids watching like psychotic stuff on TikTok? Like, oh boy,
God,
this
yeah.
can't be good.
Oh yeah, my daughter, my middle child, she's the devil. She's terrific though. She's super artistic, but she's right on the edge. So she likes Melanie Martinez, and she's got these other artists that are really kind of dark and deep. The edgier than Billie Eilish people
Mm.
too. And so she's really into that. And listen, we embrace it. As long as she's not hurting herself or hurting anybody. we'll keep an eye on it. But I think it's all for the greater good for artists. When I was a kid, I don't know what it was like when you were a kid, but we were super conservative, so we couldn't watch anything really. We couldn't watch Happy Days or any of those
Right,
shows.
right.
We had to listen to Christian music, until I was probably 6 or 7 before we could actually ever listen to anything. And then my brother snuck in that Kiss record between the Tony Orlando and Dawn and John Denver record or something. And then I was born again.
There it is.
you know,
I'll tell you this. Yeah, I can relate to that because my pops, like, PG-13 movies when I was, 13. I mean, those were like pretty edgy movies. You could do a lot with that rating in Hollywood. So my pops was always monitoring like what we watched, and he would turn off movies all the time. Like if something was inappropriate, he would get so pissed and then like make us stop the movie, and we'd be like, ah.
Right.
But one time I was like, at this point I'm like 17, like I'm pretty old, and all my friends we're down in the basement watching this Tom Green movie called Freddy Got Fingered.
Oh my God, the worst! Of course, I had to watch the movie because I heard that it was literally the worst movie ever made.
Yeah,
so I'm like, I'm 100% into that.
Tom Green, what a legend! So he hears us like howling in the basement, just like me and my buddies just laughing our asses off, cackling, and he comes downstairs. You could tell he's like not having it. He's like, so he comes down the stairs and he like looks in the in the room and he yells, "There better not be any bare tits in this movie." And he goes back upstairs.
I don't even think you could say bare tits in a PG-13 movie. Can you say that?
No, that was my dad yelling
no,
at
us. I know. That's what I mean. It's worse. He was worse.
Oh, can you show I think maybe you could show boobs. No, maybe that's rated R.
No, you couldn't show breasts. When I was a kid, it was PG. Like PG-13 didn't come around until what? I don't remember. 1990 or so, maybe 85 or something like that.
Okay.
But, Jaws was rated PG. It's still rated PG. So my
Wow.
kids will look at stuff and go, oh, this is only rated PG. And then they're like, oh my God, because Jaws is so intense, So, but we weren't allowed to watch PG movies until I was 10 or 11. And then
Was there a movie in childhood that kind of scarred you, that kind of gave you nightmares, that you stumbled upon accidentally?
That's a great question. I wouldn't remember the name of it, but I do remember one that haunted me. It was like a 1960s, just one of those surreal, like what's the great Salvador Dali movie, with the slashing up eyeballs and it was something like that, just this avant-garde 60s black and white film that was on TV on one of the 3 channels we watched, and I remember that thing stuck with me forever. I've since looked it up, but years ago, I haven't thought about it in years, but I looked it up and still couldn't figure out what it was. So
yeah, I remember like being a pretty little kid, and my pop's flipping through the channels like late at night, and he stumbles upon Child's Play 1.
Oh yeah,
With the
great.
Killer Savage murdering doll, and it was like the scene right where like the Chucky doll gets lit on fire and is like burnt to a crisp and like still walking, like about to stab the little kid, and that that screwed me up forever.
How old were you then when you saw that?
I don't know. I don't think I was even 10. So yeah, it was real haunting.
Do you know the Trilogy of Terror movie with Karen Black? It's way before your time, early 70s, but that had 3 horror movies in it. 3 horror stories, and one of them was the doll. She got a gift of what are they called? The kabuki doll, maybe something like that. No,
Yeah.
kabuki would be from the East. I don't know. Anyway, it was like some savage doll or whatever. And then that thing came to life at night and went around. I think that's where they got the idea from. It's a classic. It's a classic. Super scary when I was a kid.
It works every time. There's also something extra spooky about like old films with when the technology wasn't as good. I don't know what that is, but I remember watching like even films from like the 40s and 50s or even the 30s when I had a film class, and it was like, teleporting into what it was like to just not have penicillin, and that, like you're legitimately seeing these shitty ass streets and like docks of New York City where there was just gangs like trolling around, like stabbing each other, like with no police. So the medium or the old tech kind of adds a lot of spookiness to old
It's
films.
funny you say with no police because that suggests that you don't like lawlessness. Is that true of you? I should be a therapist.
Mm.
Are you afraid of lawlessness? Are you afraid of martial law or any of that? Do you ever
Probably
think?
because I got no shooting skills, or
Yeah,
like
me
I'm
too.
not good at stabbing or shooting or hunting or strangling.
All the lins, all the I ends with the apostrophe. That's a Jeff Daniels thing. Jeff Daniels, every time he wrote any kind of song, and he's great, by the way. You know, besides being a great actor, a great, good songwriter, good storyteller, and the whole thing. Everything is with the I N apostrophe in the end,
Mm.
strangling, killing. You know, he's never uses. He's not a fan of the G. I've
Yeah, you don't
noticed
need
in
it.
everything.
You got
Yeah.
survival skills like in a apocalypse or
I was in
anything?
the army. I mean, I have some survival
I didn't
skills.
know you were in the army.
Yeah, 4 years, man.
Nice.
4 years I worked on the border of Czechoslovakia when the wall was still up in East Germany. So it was that's how I associated being communist. It was communist back then, and so we would but be on the border in the middle of the field or in the middle of the woods, and we would sit out there all night. You know, I'd be with another guy, or and he'd be back in the Jeep, and I'd have to go out there with the night vision goggles and sit out there and watch all night and watch for any activity. You know, if you see tanks rolling up on the border, that's something you'd call in. You know, but that
Wow.
never happened. But you'd see like people would come across, they'd escape, and then you'd take them to the Polizei, the German police or whatever, and you'd take care of them, whatever. But I would always see a border guard on their side, a Czech border guard, just like me, 19, 18, 19, just a kid, and you weren't allowed to wave, you know, of course you couldn't flip them off or anything, but you couldn't even wave. You weren't supposed to acknowledge them because it could be an act of war. You know what
Mm.
I mean? Just any kind of movement. So you
Oh
just have to sit
shit.
and watch. And there was a thing we did in the army where you would put your cigarettes, you'd sneak out to the border stone. There'd be a border stone every 50 meters or so, and you'd sneak out there in the middle of the night and you'd put your pack of cigarettes on there in hopes that they would exchange smokes with you. And I did that for months. And then finally I went out there one morning and I look and I'm like, oh, my cigarettes are still there. I'd always pick up the same pack of cigarettes I left, and they were Czechoslovakian smokes.
Wow.
And that was a great feeling. I mean, it was really a great feeling. It
What if
was
they were
like this
poison
guy.
though?
No, why would they do that? They're not going to poison. Why
But
would
they're at war against you.
Yeah, but they were just like us.
Yeah.
It was during Reagan years where communists are so bad. And you know what I mean? They were all like us. I mean, they ended up being free a couple of years later or whatever,
Mm.
and free to travel. But I swore that I'd keep that pack of smokes forever. And then I ended up getting drunk a week later or something. I didn't smoke. We all smoked them, It's just,
So you were
that was like
basically
when I actually had that reminds me real quick. I'm sorry. I had somebody gave me, I think it was Jack Joseph Puig who produced our record. He's a great producer. He produced The Freshman, actually, and he produced a mix of records. Anyway, he gave me a box of George Harrison's personal incense. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to make this last. And of course, it lasted like a week because I pulled it out at all the parties and like showing off. Anyway, what were we going to say?
I'm so interested about the the being in the army and stuff. So it's like
Yeah.
you're sitting across the river from these Czech border guards, and is it like you have
Not
this
even a river. No river. I mean, it was like you watch deer go back and forth. Like
Okay.
they would just you could wander across. There's nothing to stop you.
Damn,
Like they're in the middle of the woods or you're out in the field and farmers and stuff. And you could literally just walk across if you wanted to walk across. But,
would you get
there were
shot?
minefields on the other side. No, but there's nobody watching. When they're way out there, we weren't near any roads or
Oh
anything.
yeah.
You're just along, you're every 50 miles, there's a little Jeep on our side with a guy just looking across the border,
Damn. So was
So
was it
there's
so it was
nothing.
easy to escape for the Czechoslovakians? They could just
No,
get
because they had minefields. They had mines out there, and occasion you'd hear a mine go off. You didn't know if it was an animal or a Czechoslovakian. And then you could see farther away there would be a barbed wire, so you could see that they took steps, but there was nothing right at the border, just the border stone.
And you're watching the Czechoslovakian Guard, and like, so you're both kind of have this mutual understanding, like,
Yeah,
"Ah, I'm just doing my time. This is bullshit,"
yeah.
you know?
You can tell. Of course, though. What
Yeah.
would they have as many complaints, I'm sure, as we do. You know what I mean? They're in the military. I would imagine that their punishment would be a little more harsh. But yeah, but I just it was pretty clear that by seeing them, and we
Mhm.
had hung out with the Italian army, and that's of course different because they were free, of course. But well, the Italian army you had to go in. You had, and German army you had to go in. If you weren't in high school, you had to go to the army for 2 years. You had to
Mm.
serve your time. So uh, you just knew they were like us. You know,
Yeah.
policy.
Any other good war stories?
I'm used to get my guitar taken away. That's a good segue into music because I was I had a smart ass mouth always. I was a big fan of Mash, so I thought I was Alan Alda the whole time. I always had something fucking smart to say, and I got in a lot of trouble. But they would always take my guitar away because that was the best punishment for me. And then I'd have my guitar gone for a month. You know, and then they wanted me to, when I first went to Germany, they wanted me, you're supposed to have your social security number on everything you owned, and you had to engrave it. And so they wanted me to engrave my social security number on my guitar, and I refused. And so they took it away. They took it away, and then I ended up having to do it to get it back.
So were you like writing songs on the war borders and stuff?
Oh my God, yeah. I would go out there on the border because nobody ever checked up on you in the middle of the night. Everybody's asleep, so it's 3 in the morning and it's freezing in the wintertime. And I would have my headset. Back then it was the, Walkman or whatever, but it was a cassette Walkman. And I would have my pockets, my BDU pockets, battle dress uniform. So your camouflage outfit, whatever, those huge like painter pants pockets, and they'd be
Mhm.
full of cassettes. And I would just listen to cassettes over and over, and I would make makeshift. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but the army had an amazing. We didn't talk about the army, but I used to hide out in the library when we weren't on the border because nobody ever checked the library for soldiers, and the army had an amazing catalog of albums. Like
Cool.
amazing, like Sex Pistols, Velvet Underground, all of them, they all had the sticker on them that said property of the U.S. government, which is so, you know what I mean? It's so anti what that,
Yeah.
particular band was about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I would sit there on the days off for, hours and listen to album after album. And that was a huge lesson for me. And then I would have my little handheld recorder and I would record the albums too, like that too, instead of, uh, because the PX wouldn't be selling those albums, and
Mhm.
I would record them. Then I'd sit out there and listen. I listened to That's where I discovered Springsteen's Nebraska, which was a huge album for me. And I listened to that thing over and over and over out there on the border. Yeah.
Well,
So that was a
man, you
great
really could
music.
have blown it. What if there would have been like somebody sneaking up on you and you're just blasting
Nobody
Springsteen in
was.
your headphones?
You had to be out there, dude. There was nothing. I'm telling you, you're out in the middle of nowhere. And actually, this is a great thing too. Sometimes when you have a platoon of guys out there, or a squad of guys out there, 4 to 6 guys out there, all huddled around the jeeps while somebody else is out there on the border. Farmers, local farmers, would bring cases of beer, German beer, and bread and cheese, and their daughters to go up there and hang out with you in hopes that you would marry one of the farmer's daughters to,
No way.
oh my God, yeah. Oh, I know of a handful of guys that ended up marrying these girls.
No way.
Oh my God, yeah. That happened all the time. All the time.
What? This is when
Honestly,
people
I
thought
wish I
America
would have
was cool?
partook, but I never partook in any of that shenanigans. Well, I was married at the time too. My
You
first
were
wife.
married when you were 19?
Oh my God, dude. It was annulled. Right? It wasn't even not even worth mentioning. Uh, but yeah, that happened all the time. Yeah.
Well,
The
this is when
Germans out there on the border loved Americans. They hated Americans in the city, but they really loved the Americans out there. The
wow.
farmers did. Yeah. They wanted their daughters gone. They wanted their daughters to go to America, and it worked.
Wild.
Yeah, it's fun. That was the good part.
And
of
then
being in
are
the
any of
army.
your buddies, are they still married to these German ladies they met on the
Oh,
war borders?
I've only got one buddy that's one of my best friends. That he was my lieutenant in the army in Germany, and he can what can I talk this morning?
Corroborate? Is that
Corroborate, yeah,
corroborate?
corroborate, yeah, that's it. I think any of these stories, yeah. Lieutenant John Henry, he's a hell of a guy, West Pointer, and he was against the whole military thing in the first place. He's
And
just nuts.
this is like the golden age of America when people thought America was the shit, And now I wonder,
Yeah,
it's like I even notice like touring these days, it's like I don't feel like you don't get the same clout as an American band as you used to, or it's like everyone used to want American bands to come tour their countries, and now it's like,
right.
well, we have awesome bands too, so whatever,
Yeah,
go stay in America.
yeah. No, we talked about the Kiss tour, so we don't have to go too deep into that last time. But we played in Czechoslovakia. The next time I'd gone into Czechoslovakia, I was on the Kiss rock and roll stage. I was in Prague. Where had just been what 6 years before that I was on the border. When it was a
Damn.
communist country, and then we were playing in Prague, and they were one of the few cities that loved us. Because they just wanted to see rock and roll. They didn't know,
Right.
you know what I mean? So that was awesome. That was a great concert.
That's interesting.
So,
Like I wonder like the places you would have to go now as a rock band to like surprise people and like
yeah.
people that like countries that don't get enough rock and roll. You'd probably have to go farther east, like the depths of Romania or
Oh, you
even
got to get down into into Africa, and like you got to get it, but in like central. Like what was that movie that The Gods Must Be Crazy? You know that movie where there's a pilot that flies over, I don't know where he's over, Zimbabwe or something, and he drinks a Coke and then he throws the bottle out and it lands in this remote tribe and they don't know what it is. They think the gods sent them this thing, and then they're all passing or they're using the bottle. They use it as a tool and stuff.
wow.
And like suddenly there's wars that go because some kid hits another guy with a bottle in the head or whatever, uses it as a weapon, and then suddenly it creates this. It's a great movie. The Gods Must Be Crazy. I was just talking to my daughter about it. I said, you got to watch this.
Sounds
But
good.
those are the kind of countries where you could go as a rock and roll band and they'd be like, oh my God, those countries still exist. And where they're just blown away by that.
I think
How
about
great
that.
would that be?
Yeah, it'd be cool. I mean, I think about that all the time. How it's like all this beautiful architecture and these buildings and stories of the past. Like every day, that's like some rich guy's buying the property and tearing them down, and it's like,
Yeah.
damn, it's like all this beautiful stuff's going bye. It's like you're gonna have to travel farther and wider to see the old world.
So true. So true. Which isn't bad though. It's always that that the farther the destination, the more appreciative you are when you're there. I think I've
And
always felt that
the
way.
more people appreciate you, I know like I've
Yeah.
played in South Africa a bunch of times, and that's like as far as you can go, and
Hmm.
people are just like pumped to see you there because I think they just don't get that much.
Well, there
It's
you
just
go.
too far for people.
Yeah. What brought you down to South Africa? I mean, how did you get that gig? I saw you going to Mexico City too, right?
Yes, yeah.
Good for you, traveling out. Is everything wide open now that you can go? That you're going to Mexico and the whole thing. I mean, what? I don't know. I don't even know. I've been so secluded.
Generally, yeah. I mean, you got to get a bunch of COVID tests and they swab you in the ass or whatever. But then that stinks because it's like you just got to make sure you time that out, like right before you the day or two before you get on
Right.
the plane, and make sure the
Right.
testing place is open. And it's not like
Right.
America where you can just go through the Walgreens drive-through and they
Right.
let you kind of stick the thing in your nose.
Yeah,
It's
they
like
trust.
in Mexico, they hold the back of your head and like they shove this sword up your
Oh my
face, and you
God.
can feel it touch the top of your brain. It's horrible. But yeah, if you can get back in the country if you don't have the covidius.
I don't want this to. I don't want this to come off in any way. It's not. Believe me, it's not. I don't believe it's racist, but I I've always had this fear of the cartel, and we talked about lawlessness earlier. And my wife and I have had this conversation about going to Mexico. We've gone to Mexico a couple times in the last 10 years. That's about it. But there's always this prevailing feeling of lawlessness. You know what I mean? Like if you go to the border towns, Tijuana or anywhere, or right around the border or whatever, like you always hear the horror stories about you get lost, you're asking for directions, the police take you around and around and around and around and around until you actually pay them, $300 or whatever, to actually show you how to get back to where you're going. You know what I mean? That
Yeah, I mean,
fear of lawlessness.
I
You
see
know
what
what I
you're
mean?
saying, and I had that kind of thought too when I first went there. And then you go
Yeah.
to Mexico City at least, and it's just like an extension of America, but Latin. It's just cool and it's
Oh yeah.
vibey, and there's trees and foliage all over the city, and there's hip coffee places and beer places. It's the coolest city ever.
Yeah.
And I think Americans have just been like pummeled with news about cartels, and like
Yeah.
cartel is just synonymous with Mexico. So I think people are so
Yeah.
spooked to travel there, and I think I kind of think that's why it's so cool to go there, because it's like it's a bit of an undiscovered place for a lot of Americans. They don't realize how amazing it is, and Mexican people are the coolest, man. They're like so
Yeah.
friendly and calm and control their emotions. They just have their shit together. They're happy. They're just living on what they need. It's interesting because you don't see like the trash. There's just like there's not trash everywhere. It's like they recycle plates rather than giving everyone a styrofoam plate. If you like eat at a food cart, they give you a paper plate with a little towel over it. You eat off the plate, and then they wash the plate, rather than like days and days every year just piling up styrofoam garbage to go in a landfill. It's like there's like a
Yeah.
lot of common sense around waste and that kind of thing. But yeah, Mexico City, it's a real, and they love rock and roll, man. I mean, there's this was weird. Like, I mean, I'm nobody down there. I'm absolutely nobody. Um, and one of my buddies down there, he said he was walking down the sidewalk just in downtown Mexico City, and this car with the windows drove past him, just blasting one of my songs as he was
Nice.
listening to another one of my songs, which blew my mind because I haven't even played down there. I've played one gig total. I was supposed to play a few more, but I got food poisoning and had to go to the hospital. But so they just love indie rock, and they're adventurous to explore indie bands too. It's really
That's
exciting
funny.
for it.
Yeah, so that stigma, I guess that the way I've always thought, I also consider that to be the way people feel about Michigan. Everything in the news for Michigan is always the worst. Like there's never any good news coming out of Michigan. And people associate Detroit with Michigan as in general, and Detroit is not a nice city. Uh, and so I guess, yeah, I probably fall in the same category as those people that fear Michigan because of, well, now Oxford High School just happened. You know what I mean? There's always something bad.
What is Michigan known
Yeah.
for in a bad sense? What are the bad
Oh my
stereotypes?
God, are you kidding me? Like when the pandemic first hit, they stole, well, our governor was almost kidnapped. I mean, that just happened, what, a year ago? I mean, there was a whole plot to kidnap the governor. These 8 guys went to
Really?
prison for it. Yeah, look that up. Governor Whitmer. Yeah, they had been meeting and they were gonna go storm her mansion and take her, and yeah, so that made the news. Also, when the pandemic first happened, people stormed the Capitol buildings, and they were saying, "Well, we need our Applebee's to be opened up," and all this other whatever. People with Michigan with Southern accents, that's what you got to worry about, you know. So yeah, there's always something bad in Michigan. It seems like every teacher too that sleeps with their student is from Michigan or
Nice.
Michigan or Florida. I mean, Michigan and Florida really are synonymous when it comes to the news. You could Google "man in Michigan" like you could "man in
Oh,
Florida."
so it's
You
like
ever see
Florida
that?
Light. Michigan is like Aldi, Florida.
Yeah, yes.
I had heard some stories that there was a couple teachers that did sex with students at my high school, but it was way after I left.
Oh, what a bummer.
Yeah.
Man, I knew of sex that was going on between teachers because we had actually stumbled in, not actually saw it happen, but it was our drama teacher and our phys ed teacher. She was super hot, and he was the drama teacher. And I remember I was in the play, and we went to rehearsal like 20 minutes early, and we're trying to get in, and the auditorium doors are locked, and so we're beating on the door. And he comes. Just remember, we didn't know at the time, but after years of remembering this story, you realize what had gone on. But he was sweaty, and he was like, He's like, "What are you guys doing here? You're way too early," or whatever. And it's like all disheveled and shit.
You
You're like,
cock blocking little shits.
no, I know, yeah. But like I said at the time, you don't know. You're just like, "Oh, sorry," and you walk away. And then, 10 years later, you go, "Man, I wonder."
Yep, that's
Once that
incredible.
was happening.
I mean, anything to pass the time in school. I mean, public
Wouldn't
school,
you? I
brutal,
would. No, I would too.
brutal.
Yeah. So would I. Yeah. Freaking
Yeah, I
out.
don't know. I mean, I know one of
I wouldn't
after I
sleep with
left.
my student. I just want to make that clear. But
Yeah, there you go. What
teachers, yeah.
right after I left the replacement basketball coach who came in, he had like they found a brick of weed in his office, and I was like, well,
Really?
I guess.
Yeah. Too bad you didn't know that, and too bad he wasn't cool enough to have, you know.
Yeah, but I always have fond memories of like the the gym teacher's office in the locker room. That always looked
Yeah.
like a fun place to hang out because
Yeah.
the gym teachers always seemed like the only people like having a good time amongst the
Right.
staff.
Yep.
They were like buddies, and they would even go to
100%.
sporting events with each other on the
Yep.
weekends and drink beer and shoot the shit and make fun of each other, and they didn't have papers to grade, so they could just sit in that little
Yep.
office and kind of talk shit. And sometimes the kids would get invited in, and they'd show us like rock and roll records and stuff. It was very special. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it was like a shitty office with no windows, but it looked like a good time.
Yeah, in the locker room too.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. But I don't know if you watch Freaks and Geeks at all, but one of my favorite shows of all time was a great show. The gym teacher in that was played by the guy who played Biff in
Back to the Future?
yeah. Yeah. Do you know Freaks and Geeks?
Yeah, I know the show. I haven't
Yeah,
watched it, but
okay.
I know. It's
Great.
got like the superstar
Great.
cast and Seth Rogen and with Johnny Depp or something.
No, what's his name? The other guy, not Johnny Depp.
Brian
Johnny Depp.
Vander Ark.
No, the Johnny Depp wannabe originally, James Franco, and then he ended up being who disappeared.
Wait,
By the
Johnny
way.
Depp wants to be James Franco?
No, the other way around. In the beginning, James Franco was trying to. It seemed like he was trying to be the new Johnny Depp,
Okay.
but he was doing his own thing.
You say James Franco disappeared?
Have you seen him anywhere?
Like
Do you
he's
not
dead?
know the
Like,
conspiracy?
oh no. I don't know. I just saw a James Franco movie called End of the World or something.
That's a great movie. A lot of fun. But that was a long time ago. Where is he now?
Yeah, I don't know. But let me tell you something about that movie. Apparently, they wrote that movie, and Seth Rogen was supposed to be the James Franco character, like the dopey kind of stoner, out
Oh,
to
that's
lunch
funny.
guy. And they read the script, and James Franco's like, "No, let's switch roles. I want to be the weird, like failed man." And so they switched roles. I think I'm thinking of the right movie, but
Yeah,
because
that sounds
James
right.
Franco, he started off like they just wanted to cast him as like the hot guy, the
Mm-hmm.
hunk, and then like I think only later they realized like what a weird motherfucker that guy is, and then he
Yeah.
just plays all these bizarre out there characters, which you gotta love.
Super talented. All those guys in that movie too were super talented, and the guys they all came from that show, Freaks and Geeks, and that was Apatow, right? Judd Apatow.
Mhm.
Um, I don't even remember how we got on that.
Do you think you'd act in another movie again if you got the offer?
Oh yeah, of course I do it. I just do it because I enjoy it. It's
Do
a
you
lot
have
of
acting
fun.
chops?
I think so. I think I do. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an actor, but I can act. I have to act every day. I have to act like I'm enjoying the conversation I'm having with my wife. Or whatever. I have to act like I'm a good dad. I mean, what do I get, whenever I take my kids to the playground, I'm looking around. Hey, look at me, everybody! I'm pushing my kid on a swing. Like
Have you had any
it's
good
a huge
blowouts with
deal.
your wife lately?
Let's not talk about that.
Okay.
It's a bad time to talk about that.
All right.
There's a reason why I'm down here in my basement studio all the time.
Doghouse Records.
Doghouse Records presents.
Love it.
Anyway.
What about your kids? You gonna have any more kids?
Oh my God, no. No. I saw a fortune teller years ago. We did it on RCA. RCA took us to a fortune teller. They thought it'd be a good, funny promo thing. And she said that I would have 5 kids. And I've had 4.
You have 4 kids?
I do. Yeah. I have three kids. I have a son from my first marriage when I was
Okay.
19. and then I have 3 kids now here. And then my wife figures that there's a kid out there somewhere, which could very well be. I
Oh, so
don't
the
know.
fourth kid's a hypothetical?
The fifth.
Oh, the fifth. Okay.
Yeah, the fifth kid is a hypothetical because the fortune teller said I have 5 kids.
Starting 5.
So I think there's a fifth out there somewhere, but um, I'm hoping nobody sees this.
Yeah. Well, do you just hate dong bags or what?
What's a dong bag? What?
A Jimmy hat. A Jimmy hat.
What is? Oh my God! Yes. No, I was very responsible.
I believe it.
Actually, was. I wasn't one of those guys that had. I really did not have a lot of sex back in the day.
Oh, I don't believe you're a handsome man. I can't believe it.
No, listen, I appreciate that, but I was always the guy, this kind of sensitive one, you know what I mean? And the 90s were more about the girls that were, smart, intellectual, patchouli, where, they like to talk philosophy. Think of Reality Bites, the kids in Reality Bites, right? That's what the 90s was like. So, you could come off looking like a real jerk if you were like in the mode of the 80s, which was all cocaine and have sex
Right.
backstage. So we were like a higher level of sophistication. So, you try to find ways that you could just like make out with somebody, you know what I mean? But there wasn't a lot of sex. I always had a girlfriend too, a lot of times.
And you got married when you were like early, it sounds like.
Well, I got married first time when I was 18 or 19, yeah. And then, like I said, that was annulled. And then, but I had a son. I got married because it was the right thing to do because I got her pregnant.
Did you grow up
And
in the
then,
church or anything like that?
yeah, like I said, hello, did we have this conversation?
I don't think
We
so.
weren't allowed to watch TV or maybe I didn't
Oh.
associate that with the church. Yeah, we were super Christian. We could only listen to Christian music.
Oh, you did tell me that. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So totally suppressed, repressed. Yeah, childhood. So yeah, so yeah, of course, I wanted to have sex right away when I first had an orgasm and realized how amazing this was. Although I thought it was an accident and I was never going to do it again.
The Catholic shame. I remember that.
Well, remember, like somebody somebody told me how to masturbate, and then you masturbate, and you don't know what you're doing really, and you just kind of like do it, and then it like feels good, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, it feels good, and all of a sudden you have an orgasm and ejaculate, and you go, "Oh my God, what's wrong with me?" Something came on, what I mean? I was like, "I'm never doing that again," and crying, and then 20 minutes later, I'm back in the bathroom again, with my dad's
Yeah,
crib.
I still think I have like remnants of Catholic guilt around sex because
Yeah.
here's one for you, Vander Ark. I was talking to my parents. We were talking about like dating or something, and I think I told my mom like I had a date or something, and she's real like classic lady conservative, and she's like, Brett, you're not doing sex with this lady, are you? You're not doing any sex, are you? So I think she's like thinks like people don't have premarital sex maybe, and then I'm like, well, Mom, you got to understand like it's a different time, and people definitely do have sex before marriage now. And my dad chimes in. He's like, "It's true. I banged your mom before we got married."
Oh, nice.
Champion.
That's great. It's like my brother, my older brother Jeff, has got no filter. He's a freaking multi-millionaire all business, no musical talent or anything. But and he would just say things like that. Like my mom had gotten remarried. My mom had gotten remarried after my parents got divorced. And my brother Jeff had married his high school sweetheart, like the only girl he ever had sex with. And so my brother blurted that at the table once. Goes, "Mom, you've had sex you've had sex with more people than I have." It's like, oh God. Oh, my poor mom. Now she's dead. It killed her. Killed her right there at the table. Oh man. Getting some good laughs out of me today, Newski.
Dude, you're one of the easiest guys to do pods with. It's
I don't care.
a good time. Dude, that porridge is catching up with you, man.
I don't
It
know
looks
what's
like you're
going
struggling
on.
over there.
I don't know what's going on with this. You said you got food poisoning in Mexico when you were there.
Oh yeah, man. It was
That's
crazy.
another one of those things. That's another one of those, what do you call stereotypes, you know?
Yeah, that's real. I was in the hospital and horrible. I mean, they put so many fluids into me because I was so dehydrated and for days, and my vein is like, this is like a month ago at least. My vein is still all poofy. I hope I'm okay
Oh,
because it's like my I think
did they use tap water? Put
yeah.
it in, they filled you up with tap water in Mexico.
But it doesn't
We gotta
feel right. It's like
we
all
gotta get
poofy,
fluids
and
in you.
I hope I
Yeah,
yeah, I hope
that's
I'm
not good.
okay.
That doesn't.
But
Just do what most kids do. Just get a tattoo over that.
yeah, there you go.
Whatever flaw you have on your skin, just get it tattooed.
Tats are in. I mean, remember when you couldn't get a job when if you had tattoos? That wasn't
Oh
that
shit,
long
yeah.
ago.
Oh shit, yeah. And then I thought 10, 15 years ago, I thought I'm gonna invest in tattoo removal business because I'm like, all these tattoos are gonna be gone. People are gonna be like, oh, what did I do? What a trend! But isn't that crazy? Now everybody's like
It's
never
wild.
going
There's
away.
a tattoo removal place right next to my house, but I've never seen anyone in there.
Yeah, not yet. It's still too popular. Oh, it's funny.
There's also a VR place right next to my house where you can like look in the window and there's just like a bunch of strange men with like giant goggles on
Yeah,
playing video
doing
games
this
in a
and like
sterile room.
we're gonna get that for my son who's 7. No, he's 6. What's the matter with me? He's 6 years old, and we were all set. And we even told him, is this something you'd be? Oh my God, yeah, 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 of course. And then I read online, you're not supposed to let a kid under 12 use them, or whatever. Like they won't come back from they won't come back from what they see.
I mean, you've probably got friends that have iPad kids. I mean, you like
Yeah.
they're in the
Oh yeah.
iPad. You try to talk to them, they can't respond. The
Yeah.
iPad freezes.
Yeah.
They have a meltdown. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a real
Well, we have
thing.
that here. I mean, our kids, they have iPads, but we have a specific time that you can do it. Two
Sure.
hours after dinner or whatever. But yeah, we have that issue. Same thing. Or what's the password for the all day long? It's the password and chargers, passwords and chargers. That should be a song or an album
Yep.
name. Because it's like that's what our life is here. It's all What's the password and where's my charger? You took my charger.
Well, as a man who's has kids and also like fairly tech savvy, does tech spook you at all in the future?
No, no. In what way? You mean artificial AI? You mean
AI surveillance state like taking
uh,
over our
I take the
brains.
Howard Stern approach, which is let people record everybody. Who cares? I don't care if people record. That's not. I mean, I really don't care. I don't care that there's a camera on every street corner. I just don't care.
Really, huh?
Do you care?
I mean, I care in the sense that if that tech gets hijacked by like some spooky totalitarian overlords, then it's really over. Um,
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
I would be too spooked, I think, at this point to like tour in China because I would just be worried like maybe they heard something I said in a lyric that was misinterpreted, and I get thrown in a unmarked white van with a bag over my head in the middle of Shanghai.
Right.
And that could come back to like you hear so many stories in the news, like maybe with you and cartels in Mexico, where maybe it's more intense
Yeah.
than it is, but also at the same time, it's like I don't know if it's worth the risk. I mean, it's the surveillance state. I guess to answer your question, it does spook me out, but that's where
Oh,
we're
I don't
headed.
know. I'm interested. I guess after hearing you just say that, yeah, if I were to travel and I'd written something that was subversive in any way, and I don't think I'd be afraid of that. I'm just talking about a general, like local surveillance. I really don't care.
Love it. It's great to be an optimist, and
Yeah.
there's enough
Does that
fear in the
does that
world, you know.
constitute me being an optimist?
I guess. I mean, it's like it's the most fearful time in history, I think, for people.
Yeah.
So I love that you're not spooked.
Come on. What people were afraid of television back in the day, that the television was watching you and stuff. I mean, it's like who cares?
But
Like, did
now
they
it
really?
is.
Now it is
Now it
100%.
actually is, and it's
I have
confirmed.
to put I have to put a t-shirt over my camera even though it's not on when I masturbate.
You do. Here's
You
something
know?
for. I might have talked about this on the pod already, but I got I got a random email from like some foreign country, and the subject line was just my name. It just said Brett Newski, and it said, and it was all mistyped typos, and it said, Brett, we hacked your computer, and we have footage of you masturbating, and we are going to post it online unless you send $10,000 to this bank account immediately.
Yeah, I've gotten those.
And I was just like, you got that one?
Oh, I've gotten one similar to that.
Yeah, yeah. And I was just like,
you've been visiting illegal sites,
right? Right.
FBI, like the FBI is going to write you an email.
Yep. So, so I was just like, post it, motherfucker. I mean, let's just get it. Yeah. You know, once I feel like once there's footage of you masturbating on the internet, you're set for life. You can never be canceled.
Look at Jeffrey Toobin. He's back on the air. I mean, that guy. Oh, remember the guy from CNN who was one of the panelists in CNN? He's the legal guy or whatever, legal analyst, and he during a Zoom call, he like thought his camera was off and he masturbated on camera. Yes, and now they put him back on the air. And this just happened like less than a year ago, and now he's back on the air.
Yeah, on a Zoom call?
On a Zoom call. I don't even know how you could show your face on CNN again.
Holy Lord.
Why would people do that? I just don't understand during a Zoom call. What? I guess you have that desire to, it's like exposing yourself.
I think, yeah, maybe it was like,
see you.
I mean, there's boredom mixed with sneakiness, mixed with scheming and edginess and risk. Maybe he was like, you know, it gave him an extra inch or something on the bone dog. I don't know.
Does that wait, what? You're telling me you can enlarge my penis by the amount of risk that I take in you need to market that.
That's a real breakthrough episode, Vander Ark.
We really nailed it. Man,
this is great.
Wait, when are we going to get started? It's already 9:30.
Yeah. Well, we've been riffing a good hour. I could keep riffing all day, but I know you got missions and you got hits to write and children to put in dunce caps. So anything you want to punt before we sign off?
Yes. Milwaukee show this weekend.
Really?
If this makes it to the air, yeah.
I live in Milwaukee.
December 11th. Come in.
I'll put this up today then.
I'll put you on the list.
December 11th. I'm in the dirty South. I'm in Texas, but you're going to sell it out. It's going to be great.
Okay. Yeah. December 11th is that show. And, and then I'll be at Funk's Pub the day before on December 10th, which is in Fitchburg, which is Madison, right?
Love it, man.
That area. Yeah. But that's it. Otherwise, have people stream the new album Threads. Very proud of it.
Perfect.
Verve Pipe. So.
Sounds good, Brian Vander Ark. I love you, man.
Well, man. Love you too, man. A lot of fun.
Always a good time talking to you.
Always, man.
Much love.
Take care, brother.
Choop.